You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. You put down a deposit, you can get up to $1,000 in free plays. Okay. I do apologize to everyone out there. We weren't able to get Aaron on today. Had some slight technical issues, so it will be just me rocking the ship right here. But, again, we've got a lot to get to. Arizona Duke, who doesn't want that? So let's get to it right now. The big news right now with Arizona basketball is they have scheduled a home-and-home with Duke, the University of Duke. How cool is this? Now, I know that everybody has a feeling about Duke that they robbed us in 01. They did rob us in 01. Everybody knows that. But Duke is really what matters in college basketball right now. And let's be honest, it's the biggest name brand, and Arizona will be going into Cameron. Duke will be coming back to the University of Arizona, McKale Center, to get that one going there as well. And this is awesome on a multitude of different levels. Look at it first and foremost. The one thing that I think, you could look at with no matter what you thought of, Sean Miller, or he never really scheduled well. Lute Olson would go in anywhere he wanted to basically any program, and he would be ready to do his thing right there. It didn't matter if it was Carolina. It didn't matter if it was Kansas. It didn't matter if it was Michigan State, Gonzaga. Lute Olson always wanted the best, and that's where we bring everything out, because when you go against the best, you get to really see where everything does work. And again, big kudos here for Tommy Lloyd for making this one happen, because you're your first year in a program. You've got a guy in John Shire across from you who is also in his first year trying to get everything going, and you're able to get it going. Now, and how cool is this for recruiting as well? Think about it. If you're able to tell a kid you're going to be able to get in there, and not only will you be playing against the University of Arizona, against the University of Duke, you're going to be going into Cameron Indoor Stadium. So, and that's right now, that's kind of the apex. So good on John Shire, good on Tommy Lloyd. There's always been a lot of rumors that, that Mike Krzyzewski wasn't really keen on doing home and homes. And I think Lute Olson could probably attest to that. So those guys are out of the way. It's a new era of college basketball right now. And again, a big tip of the cap. This is this kind of stuff that everybody wanted to see. Because honestly, you want to see the best teams go at it. And we're going to talk a little bit about conference realignment in a second and what that could possibly mean. But Duke basketball right now is going to be playing the University of Arizona in McKale Center. The first game, though, is going to be in Cameron in 2023. And does it get any better than that? Not for me. I don't know that it does for you. So, again, this is a little bit different than in the 90s when Lute and Mike Krzyzewski had their back and forth and it kind of ended poorly. This is a new era. This is a 1-and-1. This isn't doing, one game in Cameron, and then the next game's like at a neutral site in Texas. This is going to be Duke coming to Arizona. And a guy made a really good point on Twitter and on message boards where he said, isn't it interesting that these guys get out of the way and now you're able to make this one happen? Also, you're going to have 2 top 5 teams coming in at that point. Duke is going to be loaded. Arizona is going to be loaded. So you're going to be getting the best of the best going at it. Again, big tip of the cap right there. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the show. So, again, I want to talk also a little bit about conference realignment. Again, we do apologize. We're going to try to get Aaron Torres back on later in the week. Had a little bit of a technical issue right there. So we'll get him back on. So now let's talk a little bit about what I wanted to talk about too. This is going to be a big week for the University of Arizona, especially when it comes to conference realignment. You've seen a lot of articles now talking about a possible Pac-12, Big 12 merger and what exactly that would mean. Well, that to me is becoming more and more realistic, because the conference right now is looking at some pretty big issues when it comes to TV deals. Now, the Pac-12 has talked about how there's going to be there's going to be a TV deal that's going to be put out there. And everything that I'm hearing, and take it for what it's worth, but everything that I'm hearing indicates that this isn't going to go real well for the Pac-12, that it's probably not going to be an impressive deal. And at that point, you got to move on to another option. And I think the Big 12, as we've talked about, is a perfect landing spot right there, mainly because you've got a conference that has the gravitas, because you've got certain programs in there still. Basketball, we've already talked about. Basketball is going to be great. There won't be any problems with basketball. When it comes to football, it won't be great, but at the same time, it's going to be good enough, and you're going to have a litany of programs in there that will be there for a while. So the one thing that you got to look at and you got to think to yourself is, okay, when it comes to Arizona, where would they best be? Where could they find themselves in the best future going forward? And I think it's hard to say that it's anything but the Big 12. And quite frankly, I don't even know that it's close because, and again, we were going to talk about this with Aaron Torres. I do apologize again, had some technical issues. But when it comes to the conference right now, the one thing that I think is interesting is that how are you going to survive without UCLA and USC? I just don't think it's sustainable. And you get a lot of people that are talking about Phil Knight. Well, Phil Knight's going to do this. Phil Knight's going to do that. Well, at the end of the day, I don't know how important Phil Knight is in this entire situation. As a matter of fact, I think that his impact right now is probably a little bit overblown. So we'll definitely keep you up to date on that. But Arizona Duke, that is what highlights everything right there. Let's talk about that more in depth in just a second. But first, let's talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Here's the deal. You put down a deposit, you can get up to $1,000 in free plays. That simple, that easy. 21 and up, Arizona only. If you got a gambling issue, you call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. They will get you all taken care of. And you could get some money out of it. You've looked right now, and across the country, you've got all kinds of different sports going on, but they're not, it's not basketball, it's not football, but this is the time to keep everything going right now. Keep the blood flowing, and then you got that. So again, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Okay, let's get back to talking some Arizona Duke. Does it get any better, though, than Arizona Duke? Not for me, because you wake up, or excuse me, when I was growing up, the one thing that you always measured yourself against was Duke basketball. You always had those iconic players. You always had that iconic team. And Arizona and Duke, for about that same period, from about 88 to 2003, were two of the top 5 programs in the nation. Now, Duke obviously had more national championships. They ended up winning in 2001 against Arizona. I maintain that was Arizona's best team. I maintain that was Duke's best team. Arizona got robbed, but make no mistake, Duke knows all about Arizona basketball. And I think that most people would realize that this is a really good opportunity for the University of Arizona because it's a national brand type game. It's a national brand type situation. Mark Graves puts in here, he says, I always disliked Duke. You're speaking for the crowd right there because, most people don't like Duke. But if you're Arizona and you have the opportunity to get that, you go into Cameron Indoor Stadium because is there anything better than beating Duke on their own court in the ACC? I don't think so. And Mike Krzyzewski, while he's gone, John Shire's going to be there for a long time. John Shire hasn't done anything that, or he hasn't done anything to indicate that he won't be successful either. This is Coach K's long pick successor, and I think you're ready to go. This means everything. We're going to talk a ton more about this with Brad Alice here coming up later in the week. Again, so want to apologize. No Aaron Torres on today. We will get him on later in the week, but really wanted to touch base with everybody here because this is a new era of Arizona basketball. This is Tommy Lloyd indicating that he is more than okay with scheduling good teams, and he is more than okay with allowing the possibility of losing some out-of-conference games. And again, you got to give Duke credit too, because Duke, while the bigger name, also knows that Arizona could come in and beat them. And that's not easy for pretty much any school to be able to put out there. So again, big news here, Arizona Duke. We're going to talk a lot more about that coming up here later in the week. When it comes to Arizona basketball, though, the other thing, too, that you got to understand is that Arizona takes a backseat to absolutely nobody when it comes to the basketball stratosphere. It just doesn't. And there should be absolutely no reason to be worried about this. Arizona will acquit itself more than fine. I can guarantee you of that. Okay. Now, again, one thing that also acquits itself very fine is the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Code word PHNX. All right, here's the drill. You put down $5 or any deposit, you can get up to $1,000 in free plays. That simple, that easy. 21 and up, Arizona only. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. If you want to bet on some futures, if you think that Duke or Arizona is going to win the national title this year, this is the place that you want to hop onto. Again, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. We're going to be back with you tomorrow, though, 12:30. It'll be a normal show. We'll try to get Aaron Torres on Wednesday. Hopefully we can make that one work. But again, Arizona Duke, that is the big game. We're also expecting probably some big news when it comes to realignment. But for everybody out there, again, I do apologize. But tomorrow we will be back, your normal show. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.